It is said that Wu Song came to the inn in front of the county that day, packed his luggage and bedding, handed it over to the soldiers to pick it up, and led him to his brother's house. When the woman saw him, she was as happy as if she had found a gold treasure. She quickly cleaned a room and settled in with Wu Song. Wu Song ordered the soldiers to go back and stay at his brother's house that night. When he got up early the next day, the woman also got up in a hurry and cooked soup and noodles with him. Wu Song washed and wrapped his clothes and went out to the county to paint his clothes. The woman said, "Uncle, I have drawn my breasts. Come home for breakfast earlier. Don't go to eat elsewhere." Wu Song responded and went. After arriving at the county, he finished painting and waited all morning. When he returned home, the woman made arrangements for dinner. The three of them ate together, and the woman held a cup of tea in both hands and handed it to Wu Song. Wu Song said, "It's up to my sister-in-law to bear the burden. Wu Song can't sleep or eat well. Tomorrow we'll send some local soldiers to take care of him." The woman kept shouting, "How can uncle be so careless? He doesn't serve others because of his own flesh and blood." Although he has this, when the little girl came to greet her, the servant saw him taking things and digging around, but she didn't rely on him. Even if the soldiers came, the servant would not clean the pot and the stove, so the slave would not look down on such people. Wu Song said, "I am so tired that I gave birth to my sister-in-law. There is a poem to prove it." Wu Song's appearance is not charming, and his sister-in-law's lust is unstoppable. "When I came back to live in my home, I often looked at my quilt thickly because of my love sickness." Stop talking. Since Wu Song moved to his brother's house, he took some money and went out to Wu Da to buy cakes, tea and fruits to treat the neighbors on both sides. Due to elements came to favor Wu Song, Wuhan University arranged to return to the banquet again, so it was no problem. A few days later, Wu Song took out a piece of colorful stuff and made clothes with his sister-in-law. The woman laughed and said, "Uncle, how can I do this? Since it is given to the slave family, I dare not refuse it." She had no choice but to accept it and say hello. From then on, Wu Song only stayed at his brother's house. Wu Dai went to the streets to sell cooking cakes. Wu Song went to the county every day to take on errands, and no matter whether he came home late or early, the woman happily served Wu Song after tea and dinner, and Wu Song felt sorry for her. The woman often used words to tease him. Wu Song was a hard-hearted straight man. "What you say is long, what you don't say is short." Unexpectedly, more than a month has passed. Looking at the weather in November, the wind has been picking up for several days. I can see thick clouds everywhere, and the snow is coming in the morning. What a heavy snow! How could you see that? But see, thousands of miles of dense snow cover, and auspicious curtains float in the sky. Gyeonghwa pieces dance on the front eaves. At this time, the Yan River was wet and stagnant, and the boat was sluggish. In an instant, the towers were overwhelmed, and the mountains and rivers were connected in silver. Flying salt and powder spread all over the sky. At that time, Lu Mingsheng was in charge, and the kiln sighed that there was no money. It snowed until the first watch that day, but it had already made the world full of silver, and jade crushed the universe. The next day Wu Song went to the county to draw Mao and did not return until noon. Wu Da was driven out early by his wife to do some business. So he went to Wang Po in the next room to buy some wine and meat, and went to Wu Song's room to make a pot of charcoal fire. She thought to herself, "I really flirted with him today, and I'm not afraid that he won't be affectionate." The woman stood alone and deserted under the curtain, and saw Wu Song coming back in the snow, walking on the scattered jade. The woman pushed up the curtain and said with a smile, "Uncle, are you cold?" Wu Song said, "Thank you, sister-in-law, for caring about me." After entering the door, he removed the felt hat. The woman took it with her hand, and Wu Song said, "I won't bother my sister-in-law." He brushed off the snow and hung it on the wall. Then he took off his belt, took off his parrot green silk jacket, and entered the room. The woman asked, "I've been waiting all morning. Why didn't my uncle come back for breakfast?" Wu Song said, "This morning, an acquaintance invited me to dinner, but he didn't have a cup again. I was impatient and walked all the way home." The woman said, "Humanity said, "Since you are dead, please ask your uncle to go to the fire," Wu Song said. "Just right." He took off his oil boots, changed into a pair of socks, put on warm shoes, set up a stool, and sat on the ground near the brazier. The woman had already ordered Yinger to bolt the front door and close the back door. But he brought some cooked vegetables into the room and put them on the table. Wu Song asked, "Where has your brother been?" The woman said, "Your brother went out to do business and didn't come back, so my uncle and I had 3 cups of ourselves." Wu Song said, "It's not too late to wait for my brother to come home to eat." The woman said, waiting for him over there, before he could say anything. He saw Yinger and his daughter had already warmed up with a glass of wine. Wu Song said, "Teach my sister-in-law to take the trouble again." The woman also picked up a stool and sat down near the fire. There were cups and plates on the table. The woman held a glass of wine in her hand, looked at Wu Song and said, "Uncle, drink this cup to the full." Wu Song took the wine and drank it all. The woman sifted out another glass of wine and said, "It's cold, and my uncle drank from it in pairs." Wu Song said, "Sister-in-law invites you." Then she drank it all in one gulp. Wu Song sifted a glass of wine and handed it to the woman. The woman took the wine and sipped it, then poured another glass of wine and placed it in front of Wu Song. The woman, who was half single, exposed her breasts, smiled on her face, and said, "I heard someone say that my uncle has a singer on the street in front of the county." "Ha," Wu Song said, "Sister-in-law, don't listen to other people's nonsense. I, Wooer, have never been this kind of person." The woman said, "I don't believe it. I'm afraid my uncle's words don't mean what he means." Wu Song said, "Sister-in-law, when you don't believe it, just ask your brother, that's it." The woman said, "Oh, don't tell him. What does he know? It's like he is in a drunken dream. If he knew it, he would not sell cooking cakes. Uncle, please give me a cup." He sifted 3 or 4 cups and drank. The woman also had 3 glasses of wine down her belly, which stirred her heart, and she could bear it. Desire is like fire, and he only talks gossip. Wu Song also knew about it, and he only lowered his head, but did not come to solicit. The woman got up to boil the wine. Wu Song was in his room, but he was making a fire with chopsticks. The woman took a long time to warm up a pint of wine, came into the room, held the pint in one hand, squeezed Wu Song's shoulder with the other, and said, "Uncle only wears these clothes. Isn't it cold?" Wu Song I felt half or 70% uncomfortable and ignored him. Seeing that he didn't respond, the woman came to grab the fire chopsticks with both hands, and said, "Uncle, you don't know how to make a fire, so I'll stir the fire with you. Just heat it up like a brazier." Wu Song was 89% anxious, but be silent. The woman didn't look at Wu Song's anxiety, so she dropped the chopsticks, sifted out a glass of wine, took a sip, and left half of the wine. She looked at Wu Song and said, "If you are willing, eat the remaining half of my wine." Wu Song took it with his hand, threw it on the ground and said, "Sister-in-law, don't be so shameless." He pushed the woman with just a push of his hand. Wu Song opened his eyes and said, "Wooer is an upright man, with his teeth and hair, not a pig or dog that corrupts customs and hurts human ethics. Sister-in-law, don't be so shameless. For such things, if there is any trouble, I, Wu Song, will." The woman recognizes her sister-in-law with her eyes, but does not recognize her with her fists. The woman blushed at his words and asked Yinger to clean up the dishin guy. She said, "I'm just playing tricks on myself. You have to take it seriously. You are so disrespectful." He accepted the guy and went to the kitchen. Exactly, falling flowers follow the flowing water deliberately, but flowing water ruthlessly loves falling flowers. When the woman saw that Wu Song could not move, she was robbed by him. Wu Songzi was angry and thinking in his room. It was the time to apply for the license, and Wu Da carried his burden and returned in the heavy snow. He pushed the door open and put down his burden. When he entered the inner room, he saw the woman's eyes were red from crying, so he asked, "Who are you making trouble with?" The woman said, "It's all you, a diplomat who doesn't live up to your expectations. Come to bully me, Wu Dao Dao. Who dares to bully you?" The woman said, "Who is Qingxi?" "Zheng Naiwar. I saw him coming back from the heavy snow, and I kindly arranged some wine and food with him. When he saw there was no one around, so he teased me with his words. Just when Yinger saw it, I didn't rely on him. Wu Dao said, "My brother is not that kind of person. He has always been honest. Don't raise your voice and ask the neighbors to hear the joke." Wu Dao ignored it. The woman then came to Wu's second room and called out, "Second brother, you haven't had any snacks? I'll have some with you." Wu Song just kept silent, thought for a long time, and went out the door. Wu Dao shouted, "Second brother, where are you going?" He didn't agree and just went there. Wu Dao returned to the room and asked the woman. He didn't respond when I called him. He just looked at the road in the county. "I don't know what happened," the woman scolded. "Thieving wanton bugs. How difficult is it to see them?" That guy was embarrassed and had no face to see you, so he walked out. I guess he must have asked someone to move his luggage and not live here, but he didn't tell you to keep him? Wu Dao, he moved, so he had to beg someone else. What a joke. The woman scolded, "Chaos monster. He came to tease me, and he didn't want others to laugh at him. You want to go with him, but I can't be such a person. You divorce me, you just leave him alone." Wu Dao dared to speak again. He was scolded by this woman one after another. The couple were chattering at home when they saw Wu Song leading a soldier to come to the room with a pull and pack his luggage before going out. Wu Dao came out and shouted, "Second brother, why did you move here?" Wu Song said, "Brother, don't ask. I'll just pretend to be you when it comes to talking about it." If Wu Dao dares to ask for details, moved out by Wu Song. The woman murmured and cursed inside, but it's okay. It's just that it's difficult to exchange debts for relatives. People don't know how a brother who was the head of the family can support his brother and sister-in-law, but he doesn't know how he can bite others. The flowers and papayas are so beautiful in the sky. If you move them here, you will be thankful to heaven and earth, and your enemies will be away from your eyes. When Wu Dao saw his wife speaking like this, for some reason, he couldn't let it go. Since Wu Song moved to the county into rest, Wu Dao Ziqian went to the streets to sell cooking cakes. I was about to go to the county to talk to my brother, but the woman repeatedly warned me not to woo him, so Wu Dao did not dare to look for Wu Song. It is said that since Wu Song moved away from his brother's house, more than 10 days have passed without noticing the snow. But it is said that since the magistrate of this county took office, it has taken more than 2 years to transfer a lot of gold and silver, and he has to send all his confidants to the relatives in Tokyo to collect and mail them. And he has been in Hajj for 3 years to manage his superiors. When I first came, I was afraid of villains on the road, so I needed a strong person to go with me. But I remembered due to Wu Song, and I needed this person to solve this problem. On the same day, Wu Song was called to the Yamen to discuss. I have a relative who is an official in Tokyo. His surname is Chu Mayan Li. When he was appointed as the prefect of the palace, he wanted to send a load of gifts and a letter to say hello. Just I'm afraid it won't be easy on the way, so I'd better go if I have to. Don't refuse to work hard. I'll reward you when you come back. Wu Song responded, the villain has to be praised by others, so how dare you refuse? Since I have been sent, I will go here. The county magistrate was overjoyed and rewarded Wu Song with 3 glasses of wine and 12 taels of travel expenses. Not a problem. Let us say that Wu Song received the words of the county magistrate, went out of the county gate, went downstairs, called the soldiers, but went to the street to buy a bottle of wine and vegetables, and went straight to Wu's family. When Wu Dao came back from the street, he saw Wu Song sitting on the ground in front of the door, and handed the soldiers to the kitchen to make arrangements. The woman was still full of emotions. When she saw Wu Song was about to bring wine and food, she thought to herself, is this guy missing me? Otherwise, what will happen if he comes back? I will ask him slowly in the future. The woman went upstairs to recombine. Niang Mayan, Yan Huan, changed some colors of clothes, and came to the door to greet Wu Song. The woman bowed and said, Uncle, I've made a mistake for some reason. I haven't come to your door for several days, and I don't care about it. Today I'm so happy to have my uncle come home. What are you doing with the money? Wu Song said, Wooer, you have in other words, I came here just to tell my brother. The woman said, "In that case, please sit upstairs." The three of them came upstairs. Wusong asked his brother and sister-in-law to sit down first, and he held up his hand. The soldiers put out wine and rice. Wusong persuaded his brother and sister-in-law to eat. The woman then turned her eyes to look at Wusong, but Wusong only cared about drinking. After a few rounds of drinking, Wusong asked Yinger for a cup of wine, and asked the soldiers to sift a glass of wine and hold it in his hand. He looked at Wu Dao and said, "Brother, Wu is on an official business trip to Tokyo today from the county magistrate. He will leave tomorrow. It usually takes 2 to 3 months. Sometimes it takes 1 month to come back. I have something to say to you. You have always been a coward. I am not at home, and I am afraid that outsiders will bully you. If you sell 10 baskets of cooking cakes every day, you will never starting tomorrow. Just make 5 baskets of cooking cakes and go out. Go out late and come back early every day, and don't drink with others. When you get home, close the curtains and close the door early, which saves a lot of talk about right and wrong. If someone bullies you, don't talk to anyone." He argued, "When I come back, I will argue with him. Brother, if you obey me, drink this cup." Wu Da took the wine and said, "Brother, I agree. I will obey you." After eating a cup, Wusong poured another glass. After drinking the second glass of wine, he said to the woman, "Sister-in-law is a delicate person, and there is no need for Wusong to say more. My brother is a simple man, and he relies entirely on his sister-in-law to make the decision. As the saying goes, a strong person on the outside is not as strong as a strong person on the inside. My sister-in-law can decide the family, and my brother, what are you worried about? Don't you hear the ancient saying, dogs cannot enter a fence?" After hearing this, the woman's ears turned red. Her face turned purple for a moment. She pointed at Wusong and cursed, "You chaotic thing. What words are there to say elsewhere? Come and bully me. I am a man without a turban, a woman with a tinkling sound. I can stand up like a man with my fists, and walk like a horse with my arms. It's not that Yue who can't scratch the pus and blood. Come out, turtle. Since I married Wu Da, ants really dare not enter the house. Why is the fence so weak that dogs can get in? Stop talking nonsense. Every sentence will be traced. If you drop a brick, they all have to touch the ground," Wusong said with a smile. "It would be best if my sister-in-law makes the decision, as long as my heart and mouth respond. In this case, I, Wusong, have remembered what my sister-in-law said, and I have invited you to have this cup." The woman pushed the wine cup away with one hand. He ran downstairs and stood on the stairs and said, "Since you are so smart, you don't know that your eldest sister-in-law is your mother. When I first married Wu Da, I never heard of a brother-in-law. How can I get there? Is it a relative? If we don't get married, we have to be the father-in-law of Kiao's family. It's unlucky for me to have to do so many things." She went downstairs crying. Exactly. Hard words and good advice are used to persuade many people, but the golden lotus harbors hatred and causes trouble. I am so embarrassed that I can't sit still, and I am so angry that I killed the heroic second brother. The woman made many arrangements. Wu Da and Wusong couldn't sit still after a few glasses of wine, so they all came downstairs, and the brothers said goodbye in tears. Wu Dao, brother has gone, come back early to meet you. Wusong Dao, brother, you don't do business. You just sit at home. If you have trouble, brother will send someone to see you off. Before leaving, Wusong then ordered, brother, don't forget what I said. Be careful at home. Wu Dao said, you can take care of it. Wusong resigned from Wu Da and returned to the lower part of the county to pack his luggage and self-defense equipment. The next day, I received a gift from the magistrate, a pile of gold and silver camels, asked for a trip, and got on the road to Tokyo. It is only said that Wu Da has been scolded by the woman for 3 or 4 days since his brother Wusong told him to leave. Wu Da swallowed his words and let him scold himself. He only followed his brother's words and only made half of the cakes every day before going out and returning before it was too late. After resting their burdens, they first removed the curtains, closed the door, and came to sit in the room. Seeing this, The woman felt anxious in her heart and cursed. I don't know what the time is. I have never seen it. The son closed the cell door in half a day. And the neighbors laughed at me, saying, how could a forbidden ghost live in my house? Listen to what your brother said. A bird with eggs in its mouth is not afraid of being laughed at by others. Wu Dao Dao said, it doesn't matter if he laughs. My brother said good things, and it saved a lot of trouble. The woman spat on his face and said, bah, you bastard. You are a man. You don't make the decision, but you listen to other people's orders. Wu Dao waved his hands and said, leave it to him. My brother is talking about the language of gold and stone. It turns out that after Wu Song left, Wu Da just said something every day: return early and close the door when you get home. The woman was so angry that she got angry with him several times. She was used to falling behind, so when Mo Wu Da came back, the woman went to close the curtains and close the door. When Wu Da saw it, he was secretly happy and thought, is it not good to be weak? There is a poem to prove it. Close the door carefully and return early. The love in front of you is separated by Chui Wei. The heart of spring is as messy as silk, and the cage will always be empty no matter how hard it is locked.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.